Hello everyone, hope you are having a great day. Welcome to another Godforge video. Today I want to review the Godforge Beta after 1 week. Watching EM and Sneaky video made me think of something Simon once said, which is, the average player doesn't look at content creator or goes to website. Godforge is very community driven, but the trap is that the current community has followed Simon since his raid days and seeing weekly Godforge update for the past 3 years. A brand new player won't have such knowledge or even the minigame and rewards. So I really want this video to have the new player perspective. So first, coming back to Godforge after 9 months since the alpha felt amazing. It felt great to be back in the game, and already as soon as the tutorial starts, you can already feel the improvement and all the work that has been done since the alpha. Right after the tutorial, we get to experience something I really enjoyed, the level up chest. It gave a great feeling of choosing each and every level up chest and reward. I know Ridgewood did a video about which is exactly optimal, but just enjoying and sometimes like me choosing the Aether Stone and getting Eternal one felt amazing. The only thing I would change is the labeling. So level up heroes or upgrade gear above the chest could really help someone who didn't know what Spirit or Rivenite is understand what they're choosing. So that would be my slight change that I would do there. But overall, it was a great addition to the game. Then I jumped right into the story mode. The story mode aspect was just enough for me. Not too long, not too short. I would only make it so you don't have to click on each and every sentence, and also that it would be stored in a library somewhere and you don't have to actually rewatch the same story every time that you enter a stage. But besides that, the pacing was great, the story was nice, so really great job for Aaron. Great job there. My first 2 days I pulled only 8 rares, so that really hinders my pace of early game in the story mode. It was really after I pulled the 30 Aether Stone from the Ruby shop on day 3 that I start to really rank up and progress. As far as progression goes, I was able to get to Virage pretty quickly in day 2, but it was brutal. I was brutally wiped at dungeon even level 1. Once dungeon level 1 were done, the 1 to 4 was pretty much the same, and then another wall at level 5 or 6. I felt that the game was more hitting hard walls than slow progression. It felt like one-shot wipes and then you go a few levels and then another one-shot wipes, instead of a slow progression with a you're almost succeeding and then you fail type of sentiment. It was more like, okay, you progress, Gilgamesh just one-shot your team in 2 seconds in his first ultimate, that kind of vibe. So I kept coming back, but it felt a lot of grindy very soon. The only thing hooking me really was the heroes, not so much the challenge. The difficulty curve for me and the difficulty spike were a little too abrupt to be really enjoyable. Overall, the story and the heroes was what really kept me going and that I enjoyed more. I didn't feel massive surprises, but again, I've been following Godforge pretty closely, so I knew what I was getting into pretty much. But I believe the average player will enjoy the heroes, the lore, and really the IP I think is the standout that really will hook players in. As far as heroes goes, I got my minigame Anubis. Then my first guaranteed was Lamashtu from the Birth of the Scion mini quest. By the way, I felt the Birth of the Scion was a fantastic addition, especially for new players who didn't have the minigame rewards. Getting that first legendary is really important early on to get both that enjoyability and that player retention, that good moment, and really getting something worth long term. So I really enjoyed the Birth of the Scion. Then it was pretty much the first few champion heroes that I got, that I used early on. So pretty much anyone I got. Then I pulled the Isolde from the campaign, and then on day 2 or 3 I pulled Sargon, and that was pretty much what carried me on. So Isolde, Sargon, and Lady Zoc was pretty much my go-to team for all of the dungeon and all of the story mode. It was pretty much those 3, and then Mordred on day 4 was added, and it pretty much remained those 4 up until the Echo stage 10. I felt that I was lacking kind of better option. It was kind of okay, Isolde and Sargon to really potentiate Isolde passive, and then Lady Zoc for DPS, and Mordred was actually the only real disruptor that could really do some crowd control, so it was pretty much my only option. So it wasn't as much as who I prefer, as much as who could really carry me for a while. Isolde is still one of my favorite early game unit. She's a beast. She's so powerful, and I think that she's really perfect for the average early game player. And the combination with a defender like Sargon really carried me a long way, actually to the final boss. The kit combo was what really made me choose them, but a new player might not have had that time of understanding the different combination and knowing who to put together. So actually progressing in the campaign might feel a little hard if you kind of don't know those key things to add early on. And clearly one of the heroes I'm most looking forward is the mission one, Morrigan. I think she's a fantastic choice for missions. Speaking of missions, that's clearly one thing I would improve. I went to Echo stage 10 and I was still on mission page 2. So basically it didn't feel like missions were optimal, in the sense that they didn't really teach and made the progression easier. So especially for a new player, I don't feel that the mission will really guide a new player towards the end of the story and really building an account and really understanding the game. Some felt just like things to do more than an actual progress that was layered out. So once stuck, I wouldn't go to the mission to find out my next step, and I think that this is really important, especially for new players, to be able to go to the mission and go to the next mission, try to do the next mission to get an edge. So I felt that I was way ahead in the story than the mission, but still I felt that the story was a little hard and dungeon hard, and still I was only at the beginning of the mission, so that disparity felt a little too much for me, and I would really like to see the mission get improved and more of a clear path to progression. So that's something that I wish that the team really looks into. Another thing I felt didn't quite hit the right vibe was gearing, and especially attunement. Usually 1 to 3 star gear are basically auto sell for silver, but because of the difficulty curve, you're trying to optimize builds with 2 or 3 star gear. And Brad was saying that getting your heroes to awaken level 4 to use attunement was basically the way to go to get those extra stats. So early on, early on in the game development, attunement was supposed to be that end game thing where you lock in place gear on the perfect hero to push the build even further. So let's say you have your speed booster and you got some crazy endgame cool speed boots with speed attunement and let's say fate and HP or something like that. Then you could attune it to even push the build further, but it was more like endgame building. So you could lock gear in and then that was your final build kind of thing. Now it's more attune 2-star rare gear to gain the few little stats that you're lacking to actually complete the content. So basically it's a moving gear free tax because moving gear is free, but you get the attunement tax to actually get the stats that you need. So that felt actually bad. I wish they would personally have made the attunement lock behind, let's say, account level. So let's say at account 80 or something like that. Then you unlock the attunement and you're kind of more end of mid game, late game. So now you're more focused on finalizing builds, so then you can attune effectively gear on your heroes rather than just attuning to get the few stats that you're lacking early on. Because at the end of the day, attunement is actually a put gear on tax, so instead of a tax on moving gear, it's a tax of putting it on, and that's not that good because early game you want to attune everyone in your team to get those extra stats and actually beat the content. So basically it's just pay a tax to put gear on. So yeah, attunement didn't feel quite right to me at least, but I'm happy to hear your thoughts. So overall it's still a beta. The team is still working super hard to deliver a fantastic game, and the overall feeling is quite good. So I'm pretty pleased with that first beta. Really looking forward to the second one, and give me your comments on how are you enjoying that beta so far, what you wish was different, and what you wish they don't touch because this is already perfect. And see you in Godforge!